Hi, everyone, and good morning and good afternoon, even evening, I guess, for some people. Today is really, really exciting for me because we will get a kind of a different look at project that I've been involved in from the very beginning. Adam here is one of the most experienced people in customer data platforms, implementations, and strategies in the region here that I've met in many years. I've been in this space, and we've had an opportunity and a chance to work together at one of the more recent implementations of Meiro CDP in the Czech or CE market. I think it's cross-border at this point almost. And specifically in a financial institution and a group level, which for CDP, who are commonly more, e-commerce, simple vertical retail oriented solutions, this becomes a lot more complex. And I'm excited to bring you Adam, who will share that experience of choosing and implementing CDP, and give all of you guys an opportunity to ask questions. And I'll have a few ready for him in the later part where we do like a fireside chat or Q&A. So without further ado, Adam, the floor is yours, and share with us what you got.
Okay, Pavel, and welcome everyone. As Pavel said, I will try to pass some of my experience. In the meantime, please ask questions. Whatever I say, if it's not clear, shout at me. I'm super happy to answer everything. So let me share my screen. Let's kick it off. Can we see it? All good?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's try again. Now?
Yes, perfect.
Sorry, I'm not a friend of Zoom. So let's kick it off. CDP implementation story. So today I will try to briefly share my view on what can you practically expect when you start with CDP, because it's definitely something which is on the market for quite a while, but still for many people it's kind of buzzword, or it's kind of very very high level thing to think about when you speak about CDP implementation, CDP utilization. So I will try to share some practical view what you can expect. I will use the example of the project I'm recently involved in, which is my work with direct family. For those of you who don't know, and probably most of you never heard of direct, but it's a large company group based in Czech Republic and spreading through CEE. Specifically in this example, or in this case, it's actually 5 companies. I have 4 here, but we've acquired and added to the project the 5th one recently. So it's mostly the big part is direct insurance, which is a very modern and new insurance company trending in CEE. Another company is Fidu by Direct, which is B2B financial services company providing FX and expense management services. Beside that, we have Direct Auto with generally car sales, and Birne operative leasing. And the project I'm working in and I will be describing is generally that Direct needed to consolidate the data of all 4 companies, the whole group, and centralize it to use the synergies. That's the very, very brief description. And the challenge, or the reason why it's one of the most challenging projects I've ever been involved in, is that typically you are trying to consolidate data within one company, which means that you have one data model, you have one business model of the company. And in this specific case, we are trying to harmonize, not just implement the tool as such, just the technology, but also we need to harmonize the business model. We need to harmonize how we work with the data in 4 very, very different companies with very different tech stacks, processes, and everything. So it's a great example proving the point I will try to, or the points I will try to make today. So when we are speaking typically about CDP implementation. Your company decided to get a CDP. There is some typical order of the questions which you need to ask and answer within the structure, and I guess there is some correct order. The thing is that they are very different. Typically, as a management, the first question is, okay, so which CDP we are getting, right? Then how it will make us money. And then maybe we are lucky, it comes to the processes, overall technical architecture, data readiness, strategic objectives. The thing is that it's the other way around how you should approach this, right? It's actually strategic objectives you should set first. Then you need to take a look on your data readiness, because otherwise it will be a hell of an implementation, and work through the overall technical architecture processes to the business case, and then CDP vendor selection. Why is that? It's because otherwise you have quite fair chance to make a poor choice. CDP is a tool, and you should choose a tool according to strategic objectives, not other way around. So if you're a bank and you want to acquire more clients, there are definitely other tools suited for that than, for example, if you are e-commerce player or if you are any other vertical, FMCG. So you need to be sure what do you want to achieve and work through the tough questions before you choose. How it worked for us in there. We've decided to set 4 phases, where in each of those phases we were able to answer a specific question. First phase, something we call explore, which is the typical exercise you should go through for any other technology, which means collection of requirements. We did technology audit. We are setting the goals. So why we are even trying to get a CDP. We are mapping the processes. Before we even spoke about the specific solution, specific technology, or even a vendor. And at the end, we just confirmed that we really need CDP, not CRM, not any other experience platform. We really decided that based on those requirements and technology we need a CDP to fit in and step into the business strategy. Then another second phase is called shape, or we call it shape, but practically it means design of the to-be architecture. So even now we are trying to design how the business and technical architecture should work or look like. We were working on the use cases, which means we were thinking what we would like to do specifically with such a tool as CDP. We are going to RFP for CDP vendor. We prepare the infrastructure and prepare the project plan. And after that, we knew which CDP we are about to get. Then build and scale are the phases which are typically something you think about within the CDP project. Meaning technical implementation, piloting the use cases, starting the new use case backlog, and so on and so on. The important message is that there is no shortcut you should take within those 4 phases, right? You can name them anything you want, but in the end, it's about when you skip some of those phases, you will definitely end up in trouble and in some, let's say, process depth you will need to chase later. And also important is to think about the fact that at the end of the scale phase, like since you have everything prepared, the CDP brings value, which means that you should definitely try to do everything in correct steps. Otherwise, the value you are getting from CDP will be significantly reduced. Still at the start, let's just have a brief conversation about general financial sector specifics in terms of CDP usage, because financial sector is definitely different from some other, and there are typical challenges you could encounter when you are trying to work with any marketing technology, but specifically CDP, which is, let's say, tool in between traditional technological field and marketing field and business field. So first of all, as a financial institution, you typically have a lot of backend data or database data. You have long life cycle compared to e-commerce, which means that you need to stitch like tons of data sources together to really be able to come to some conclusion. This means that in comparison with, for example, e-commerce or CDPs focused on e-commerce players or e-commerce customers, you definitely need a CDP which is heavily focused on identity resolution and integrations. It's not enough just to implement something on your website. You really need to bring together years and years, typically, of customer records in many data sources. Another specific I need to mention is, of course, the regulations, because financial sector all around the world is typically heavily regulated. And it's definitely something you should have in mind when you are trying to prepare a project for having a CDP. Specifically, something which should concern you deeply is the infrastructure you are using for running a CDP. Because, for example, in our case, we needed to use private cloud, so running the CDP hosted on our private Azure to avoid or to be compliant with local regulation. And of course, the regulations are different or all around the world. In some countries, the data cannot leave the country. In some countries, you need to report everything you do with your customer data. But it's definitely a good idea to think about that before getting random software as a service hosted solution and then finding difficult to comply with the regulation. And last but not least, let's be clear: financial institutions are typically large enterprises, right? For some small, agile, again, e-commerce players, typically, it's very easy to implement something, test it, and then maybe move on. But the larger the organization is, the more robust preparation is required for it. But there are also opportunities when we speak about the financial sector. So specifically for finance vertical, CDP can definitely help you to boost direct business, which is something typical I encounter. It will help you to achieve this good like 360 customer view, which is definitely more challenging for institutions in finance, but it has the higher benefits. And from my experience, actually getting a CDP, which is again something between, let's say, heavy IT area and marketing area, it can be actually a good start for the overall digital transformation, because it can be quick bridge to use before you change everything. Let's now talk about choosing a vendor, right? It's quite complicated, to be fair. Why? Because you need to know, as I mentioned before, you need to know what do you even need, which vendor and what technology you are looking for. And CDP, as any other technology, especially in marketing, it's not something fixed, right? Every vendor or every tool can put a label of CDP on its service, but there are different kind of CDPs, and you need to be sure that you know what you're looking for. So first of all, and definitely that's my strongest advice, don't choose vendor before the preparatory phase. First, do the preparation, do all the homework, like setting the goals, making a business case. Even then, look for vendors, because as you can see, there are hundreds of vendors on the field. And and it's quite logical, all of them will try to sell you their solution. They will definitely explain you that whatever they have fits perfectly for your needs. It doesn't, right? Definitely there are some tools which fits better and maybe not as well to your needs, and you need to be sure that you know what you are looking for and then making a selection. Apparently I lost one bullet point, but the bullet point was here was think carefully whether you will get help with choosing a vendor. If you have the expertise, fine, but be sure that you know what you are looking for. Otherwise, it's definitely a good idea to, for example, ask someone for help. Some consultancy, some agency, there are more options, but in the end, it will probably save you money. And before choosing a vendor, prepare the business case. Again, if you're not sure how, consider getting help. Without business case, you will end up, and I met like many companies, even the big ones and international global ones, having very expensive tool and then asking the question, okay, so what do we do with that? Which is not ideal situation when you are paying hundreds of $1,000s per month for something you already bought. So in the end, how you choose? Start with functional requirements, filter the hundreds of vendors by the functional requirements, then reach out to the few selected and talk with them, right? Because you should definitely not omitting the factor of their trustworthiness, their willing to speak with you, their helpfulness. In the end, on those guys you are talking with during this phase, your success is heavily dependent, because their support is essential in your effort. And again, for many companies, it's still a valid option. Carefully consider whether you are implementing the CDP internally, if you have the expertise, if you have the hands, or if you are getting implementation partner. There is no better or worse option, but again, you should consider your specific situation. So how we approach this in direct. As you can see on the screen, we during the RFI phase, we've approached like I believe 11 or 12 vendors, which we decided that they are fitting our requirement. It's fair to say that this view is quite influenced by the fact that we are choosing from CEE region or Czech Republic. So we know that for some typically US-based or vendors with global coverage, it's not primary region, right? It's fair to say. So some of those vendors we approached didn't even came back to us. So we did end up with 6 of them, which were invited to RFP. 3 of them, Telio and Meiro in particular, were invited to the final round. Then in the end, we decided to go with Meiro. The reason was that, as I mentioned before, we were trying to harmonize and harmonize 4 companies, now 5, and with very different technology situation, very different business model. And we evaluated that Meiro is a fairly open and customizable tool, which allowed us to do things exactly as we needed and to harmonize things. For example, having our own identity resolution, having our own algorithms for some probability modeling, which is essential when you are working with one company, which is insurance, and second, which is car sales. Quite different businesses, quite different everything generally, right? Let's talk about value and ROI. How does the CDP make me money to justify its cost? That's something every management or every stakeholder in every company will be asking. And as a consultant, I can honestly tell you it doesn't. Sounds quite funny or controversial, but the reason is CDP is a tool. it doesn't generate money. What you do with the tool generates money. So when you sell something, it gets you money. When you automate the processes, when you provide better customer experience, the customers will be more willing to give you some money, right? CDP can help you with all this, but it only depends how you use it, whether you are getting or getting not the ROI. Sounds funny, sounds super simple, but speaking from the experience, this is surprisingly often not understood by the management. It's if I take it a bit light, CDP is usually treated like some magic box which you buy, you maybe implement, and then profit. It doesn't work like this, and that's exactly again why you need this preparatory phase, because you need to be sure that as you are getting it, you have at least a vague idea how it will help you. Meaning like what you want to do with this and how. And even then you can calculate the benefit. So you should probably ask rather how much CDP can earn you and on which activities. So practical example, I have eShop. It's getting me 100 million per year, any currency. Average conversion rate is 1% on incoming traffic, and I will use CDP to improve the conversion rate by providing more personalized experience. For example, I will improve the conversion rate by 10%. Suddenly, I have incremental revenue of 10 million. That's how you calculate it, right? And it can be applied in any other area of business. It can be average revenue per user, which I will be improving by providing personalized recommendation for typically both together. It can be actually reducing my pay-per-click or performance advertising budget by excluding my current customers. Is everything, but you need to be specific in calculating the business case, because otherwise all the numbers you will be getting from a high point of view or a high level view, it's just novel, it's imaginary. You need to go case by case, roughly, that's fine, but that's how you calculate the ROI of CDP, at least from my experience. So how should you even start with that? As I said, it's use cases which creates value, right? Use cases typically one example how you use CDP. Maybe some of you know this metrics. It's value complexity. It's typically used for product management. It's the same here. So when you are thinking about the use cases, how you should work with the CDP, start with defining piloting use cases. Just throw in ideas with whatever pain points you are trying to solve, and then try to evaluate them in terms of complexity and the value. Then for MVP, for start and for calculating the business case, it's usually enough to work with the top left easy wins, something which is quite simple or simple enough in banking business, and it has high value. And then maybe you can work with the others. But important thing, when you select something for MVP, you get it to MVP, you need to test and learn, because it's highly unlikely that your first designs of the use cases, they are not perfect. And it's fine, nothing is perfect from the start, but you need to test and learn. So when I spoke about increasing the conversion rate of my eShop, I need usually to try several variables like the audiences, the creative, whatever, to get to really prove the point, or maybe proving the hypothesis was not valid, and I need to try something else. This also happens. It's fine. test and learn. Also important part of starting to start working with CDP is thinking about the processes. That's again usually something which is not super popular because presenting that you found a new process in the company is not super sexy. It's probably not something which will give you Employee of the Month. But in the end, it's important because without processes, you will probably end up running around with not being sure what to do. So things like when you work with use case backlog, things like prioritization, backlog management, what to do first, and so on, is quite important when you are trying to set to get the value back. And as I mentioned, and I will stress it again, even when running, even when you already have an MVP of CDP project, reserve some capacity for test and optimizing the active use cases. You will not hit the golden spot from the start. It's fine, and you need to come with that. So we are getting close. We are getting close to the end. So just to wrap up, CDP is a tool for working with the data. And before you even get one, you should figure out your goals. So why you do even need that, why you want that, which will help you to think further. You should figure out what your actual technology stack look like and if it will be even compatible with CDP, or if you even have the data which you will use to use customer data platform. Because if you don't have the groundwork of having data ready, you can even forget about CDP. It will not bring you value. It will be just an expensive tool which will be not fed with anything. And the use cases, meaning like what specifically I would like to do with the CDP. And then even from this point, the values start to be generated. And that's it. It was faster than I expected, but that's it from me for now. And if there are any questions or anything else, I'm happy to follow up.
Super, Adam, thank you. I'll encourage everyone to use the chat or the Q&A to feature to ask questions, and I have a few to kick us off. If there are none in the queue right now, which I don't think there are yet. So, guys, you have a really good opportunity to hear from to have a very experienced consultant answer your question free of charge here. So I would really make sure I take advantage of it.
Pavel, we have a question in the chat now that just popped up.
Great. Let me have a look. What are some of the use cases in direct that monetize the CDP? It's a good question.
Well, there are many. And typically different for every single company. But you know, let's put it simply. It's that we are trying to work with the synergies and trying to upsell companies to each other. Meaning before we had a CDP in direct, it was very, very difficult to address the customers from one entity but with the offer of another entity. For example, direct push, direct insurance, and direct auto. So the first use cases we are focusing on, and let's be fair, it's still 10 months, so we are already running, but still we are in the, let's say, shape or MVP phase. But the first use cases we are focusing on is to identify, based on the behavior we are having or some social demographic traits, the propensity to buy for the offers or for the services of another companies. I will give you an example. Like direct auto, the car sales part is trying to address the right customers of the direct insurance company, sorry. But you typically don't want to spam the whole customer base every single time, like several times a week. So we are trying to calculate the propensity and the right customer audience to be addressed with different services. Also, another use case we are trying to crack, and we are getting quite well, is that as you can imagine, like 5 companies within the group, they have like definitely tens of offers, services, or products they can sell, and we are using CDP to do the cohorts of the customers for next best offer. Let's put it simple. It's not exactly the next offer. So typically we are, to address the question, we are working with the customer base, mostly customer base for now, to decide what should we offer them and when, and working with this segmentation to really even get the marketing, get control over the marketing, because before the CDP, it was very unpredictable. We were not able to control it and to even decide on things like global fragmentation of any communication and so on. But we are still getting started. But simple answer to the question, it's upsell, and it's something like fragmentedly buy today.
Super. Thank you, Adam. There's a couple more, I think. Apologies for that. There's a question that's anonymous. Could you please elaborate on how you selected this specific set of vendors? As far as I remember, it was only 6 or 7 of them. Did not see any big players. I think you could argue that mParticle and Telium are probably one of the more standard staples. If you think big vendors, maybe big players, probably that could be like a comment on like someone like Salesforce or Adobe, maybe, just to expand the question a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So you're right that, okay, let me put it other way around. During the last few years, I worked with like quite a few vendors, included Salesforce, included Adobe. And first of all, as I said, I went by my own advice. So I was filtering by our needs, simply, right? We decided what we need, and we decided we need rather analytically focused CDP. We need CDP which is open for customization, because otherwise it wouldn't be possible to harmonize 4 companies at once. And also, and that's very important, and I can stress this enough, it's the area, or it's the location focus, or location question, right? Because again, Direct is based in Czech Republic, in Central Europe, and it's not something I would criticize, but it's a simple fact. For Salesforce, Central Europe is not important market, right? It's not that they wouldn't be here, but it's it's out of their focus. For Adobe, even more, I would say. And when you are trying to go through such a challenging project, such a complex one, and it's quite complex one, you definitely want someone who have your back, who is here, not necessarily physically, but who is with you and working together. And it's the reason why we focused mostly on European-based CDPs, like mParticle, like Telium, like Meiro. And but in general, and it's my personal experience, my personal opinion, I didn't found the big players, meaning Salesforce, Adobe, price tag justifiable by their features. That's it. And combinations of those factors get me the list of the 6. But as you remember, we started with 12, and for example, Segment and others were also approached. And I don't want to be unfair, because it's a year ago, and I don't remember which ones haven't got back to us. but some of the US-based companies didn't even respond to our demand. So some of them did, of course, right? So it was a set of questions we ask ourselves, like, what do we need to succeed, even technically, in technical meaning, even in, let's say, business terms, and support point of view. And this gave me the list I worked with, and also technical requirements, of course.
So I think the price tag is really ruling it out, right? If you have a business
Yes.
that's revenue $10 billion US, then justifying to spend $1 million on technology is probably easier than if you are that same business in a different currency. So that's a definitely a scale and size and cost exercise for sure. I've got a couple more questions, maybe just to wrap the session up a little bit. So one of the issues that we come across as a vendor often is that they have to explain the difference between something like CDP and an existing, typically marketing automation play. Companies would, I would usually hear it something like, "Oh, we use Brace. Why do we need a CDP? It has data, so we can do everything we need to do." And this usually comes from let's say the management that's not necessarily hands-on marketing and doesn't really even know and work with these tools. So is this something that you have seen either indirect or in other previous companies, and how do you tackle that? How do you explain this?
It's definitely something I've seen in every single company I've been in. Well, it's a very tough one. Quite depends on who do you talking with, and there are two ways. Personally, when we are engaged in a conversation like focused on practical benefits of the tools, typically which helps is to ask whether their whatever marketing they do have, if they can use the activities and orchestrate the activities between digital advertising and direct marketing and vice versa, which is obviously something which things like Salesforce Marketing Cloud, HubSpot, and others are typically failing because they are not designed to. And second question I'm asking, whether they are able to give me if I will use their website, if I will order something and I will get the email from them, and for example, then I will use their call center, if they can show me how they will decide whether it's still me. So identity resolution is in the end the bread and butter of the CDPs, but all the other marketing technologies, they are not designed to it, right? And the fact that, and again, let's be clear, the fact that some marketing automations put the label of the CDP on their product, it doesn't make them CDP. Unless you have, and for example, CDP Institute, the market organization itself, have the nice definition of the real CDP, and unless you are fulfilling them, you are not CDP. So one thing you can go with is asking those practical questions and proving that simply CDP is something above different marketing tools. And then what you can try is have like a bit bullshitty conversation, but showing them the involvement and showing them that they started probably with CRM or like, okay, let me put it a different way. I'm typically for consultancies, I'm using typically the maturity metrics, and what worked for me, and maybe it's not very on the ground level, but showing the maturity level from CRM, from DMP, through some marketing automation to CDP, listing all the functions. That works. And it's a visual, maybe it's more, it's more matter of trust to the consultant or whoever presented this. But it's more visual representation, adding all those functions which CDP brings to the table. That also works.
Yeah.
But I like more the practical ones, to be fair.
But yeah, the confusion clearly is there in the market where everyone is everything, and every email tool now is a CDP as well. And when you come to the crux of it, the identity, they barely do it, or they do it overnight, which, you know, that has limitations down the road. Cool. And one last question, just to close off the session for me. What would you do differently with this 10-month learning in this project? Because I think the, you know, specific about direct for me is the complexity of the implementing for brands at the same time, right? Which definitely makes it less predictable. You don't know what you don't know. It's all interconnected, and that will definitely delay things. You have to revisit certain things. So I guess, except for these operational challenges, which some of it you simply cannot mitigate and cannot plan for, is there like one specific thing that stands out, maybe that you would really do differently from the beginning, or even if in the selection of the vendors?
Yeah, great question. If I should mention one, I would try, and the question is whether it would mean that it would be even happening, but I would try to be more cautious in terms of promising the time to result, let's say, because it was, frankly, even with 15 years of experience, and I worked on some quite complex global implementation or projects regarding CDP and audience solution across 40 markets of one company. I would say it was at least the same level or maybe lower level of complexity than trying to harmonize five companies together. It surprised me, and I didn't see that coming, to be fair. And it's not even because of the CDP itself, it's about the data harmonization. And especially when, for example, one of those companies is B2B, right? It's the whole new level. So I would be more cautious on promises, and I would definitely spend more. I really hoped at the start that I will avoid doing the tracking, tagging, taxonomy or data harmonization. I will avoid that, and we will get back to it after 2 years. We skipped that at the start. It came back to us. So definitely I would be more focused on the preparatory phase even more. It was like several months, but it's simply something you need to do, because otherwise it will get back to you, right? But it's really hard, and I really believe that we all are doing everything we can, and we are moving, we are seeing results, but I would definitely be more cautious about the complexity of such an operation.
Yeah, but I think there's things that are possible, and there are things that are you know, desired. That's a different world, really. But yeah, the complexity is really hard. Adam, thank you very much for your time today and for the sharing. I think the audience really appreciated it. I'm hoping for a little bit more question and a little bit more interaction from the crowd, but we got some. So thank you for coming online with us, and we'll be sharing the recording with everyone later as well. So thanks everyone who spent time with us this morning, and have a great rest of the day and good afternoon.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.